The council chamber stretched across the darkness of space like a frozen ocean. 500 different species filled the massive hall, each one sitting in their designated areas. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had bodies made of flesh, others were just patterns of light held together by magnetic fields. They all came together once every cycle to make decisions that affected the entire galaxy. Ambassador G1 stood at the human podium. She was small compared to most other representatives. Her simple gray suit looked plain next to the elaborate decorations worn by older species. She had prepared her speech for weeks, checking every word and every number. Today was important. Today she would ask the Council to remove some of the restrictions placed on humanity 70 years ago. The restrictions came when Earth first discovered faster-than-light travel and joined the galactic community. The Council had been worried. Humans were young, aggressive, and unpredictable according to the reports. So they made rules. Humans could only build certain types of ships. They could only settle certain worlds. They had to pay special taxes on all their exports. They could only have small military forces for defending their own star systems. Every treaty was designed to keep humanity weak and controlled. G1 began her presentation. She showed how humanity had followed every single rule for 70 years. Not once had they broken a treaty. Not once had they complained publicly. Earth had paid billions in tariffs that made human products too expensive for most alien buyers. They had watched other younger species get better treatment. They had accepted insults and dismissive attitudes with quiet dignity. "We have proven ourselves," G1 said, her voice steady. "We ask only for the same opportunities given to other species. Remove the trade restrictions. Allow us to settle more worlds. Treat us as equals." The chamber remained silent for 3 seconds. Then the laughter started. The Vraxian representative spoke first. The Vraxians were beings of pure energy, contained inside special magnetic bottles that let them interact with physical matter. Their laughter came through the translation system as harsh static that hurt human ears. "The little primates want more?" The Vraxian said. "They want us to believe they are our equals." Other species joined in. The insectoid calyx clicked their mandibles in what observers recognized as mockery. The towering stone-like granite collective rumbled with deep vibrations that meant amusement. Even species that rarely showed emotion seemed to find the request funny. A Thalori representative, one of the aquatic beings that humanity had considered friends, shifted uncomfortably in their water tank but said nothing. No one spoke in support of Earth. G1 waited for the noise to die down. Her face showed no emotion. She had expected this, though hoping had been difficult to stop. The Council moved to a vote. The question was simple. Should humanity receive equal treatment under galactic law? 498 species voted no. 2 species abstained from voting. 0 voted yes. The Vraxian speaker floated closer to the central platform, their energy field pulsing with what looked like satisfaction. "Let this be recorded in the official records," they announced. "Humanity's request for equality is denied. They shall remain under existing restrictions. Their role in galactic civilization is clear. They are useful servants when properly contained and controlled. Nothing more." The words echoed through the chamber. Useful servants. Properly contained. Nothing more. G1 closed her data tablet with a soft click that somehow seemed loud in the massive space. She gathered her few belongings and placed them in her bag. Her movements were calm and methodical. She walked to the edge of her podium and looked out at the 500 species watching her. "I am Ambassador G1 of Earth," she said clearly. "I am formally withdrawing humanity from all Galactic Council proceedings. Effective immediately. We are done here." Confused murmurs rippled through the chamber. Species turned to each other, trying to understand what they had just heard. No civilization had ever voluntarily left the council. Leaving meant economic isolation. It meant political irrelevance. It meant cutting yourself off from the networks and system made galactic civilization function. It was insane. The Vraxian speaker pulsed with what might have been concern. You cannot simply leave. There are procedures. There are treaties that bind you to council authority. Jiwan stopped walking and turned back. For the first time, she smiled. It was not a friendly expression. You just voted that we are not your equals, she said. You called us servants. Servants can be dismissed. We are dismissing ourselves from your service. All treaties between Earth and the Council are hereby void. We followed your rules for 70 years because we believed you would eventually treat us fairly. We were wrong. We are correcting our mistake. She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed on the polished floor. Every species in the chamber watched her go. Some were confused. Some were amused. A few, the wiser ones, felt the first small touches of fear. The doors opened before Jiwan reached them. On the other side, the rest of the human delegation waited. 6 other diplomats, all wearing the same gray suits, all with the same calm expressions. They fell into step behind Jiwan without a word. As the doors closed behind the humans, the council chamber erupted into debate. Some species demanded immediate sanctions against Earth. Others wanted to send military forces to remind humanity of their place. A few suggested compromise, though they were quickly shouted down. The Vraxian speaker called for order and got it eventually. Let them leave, they announced. Earth has just committed economic suicide. Within a year, they will come crawling back, begging for readmission. Then we will truly show them their place. Most of the council agreed. They had seen isolated species before. They always came back. The galaxy was too large, too complex, too interconnected for any single species to survive alone. But as the session ended and representatives began filing out, a few of the older species exchanged worried looks. They remembered something the others had forgotten. They remembered that humanity was good at solving problems. Very good. And for 70 years, the Council had given humanity one enormous problem to solve. How to survive and thrive, while being deliberately suppressed by everyone around them. It was a problem humanity had just spent 7 decades working on. 24 hours after Jiwan walked out of the council chamber, every human communication beacon across the galaxy went silent. Not broken, not damaged, just silent. The faster-than-light network that connected all of human space to the rest of the galaxy stopped transmitting. Every human colony, every orbital station, every merchant ship, every diplomatic outpost simply stopped responding to outside contact. The galactic communication networks had never experienced anything like it. Species could still send messages to human locations. The automated relay stations in human territory still functioned. But no human answered. It was like shouting into an empty room. The Thalori High Command was the first to investigate seriously. They had maintained better relations with Earth than most species, though their silence during the council vote had damaged that relationship. The Thalari sent 3 diplomatic vessels to New Bizan, the closest human colony to their own space. The ships approached cautiously. New Bizan's orbital defense platforms tracked them with perfect accuracy, but did nothing hostile. The platforms were active, clearly operational, but they did not communicate. They simply watched. The Thalori requested permission to land. After 10 minutes of silence, the orbital traffic control system activated and transmitted landing coordinates. Still no voices. Just data. Governor Minnow met the Thalori delegation at the spaceport. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair and a pleasant smile. He welcomed them politely and offered them refreshments. When the Thalori ambassador asked about the communication blackout, Minho's smile never wavered. "We are no longer concerned with council matters," he said simply. "But the economic networks," the Thalori pressed. "The trade systems. You are isolating yourselves." Minho shrugged. "We are managing fine. Was there anything else?" The Thalari spent 2 days on New Bizan. They found a completely normal colony. Farms were producing food. Factories were manufacturing goods. Cities were full of people living ordinary lives. Children went to schools. Adults went to work. Everything functioned perfectly, except no one would discuss anything related to the council or galactic politics. They were not hostile about it. They just changed the subject, smiled, and moved on. Within 2 weeks, the galactic economy began experiencing problems. The issue started small. A shortage of advanced power cells on Vraxian industrial worlds. Medical facilities running low on human-made surgical equipment. Communication companies discovering that their human-manufactured quantum processors were no longer available. For 70 years, the trees had shaped humanity into specific economic roles. The council had decided that humans could manufacture complex electronics because they were good at it, and it was not militarily threatening. Humans have become the primary suppliers of advanced computer systems, power generation equipment, and adaptive artificial intelligence cores. Thousands of species, across hundreds of sectors, had grown dependent on these products. They had assumed humans had no choice but to keep making and selling them. After all, where else would Earth get the resources and currency they needed? But human merchants at every major trade station began packing their ships. They honored all existing contracts perfectly. Every order already placed was fulfilled exactly as promised. But they accepted no new orders. When asked why, they gave the same answer. A human trader named Yunji was operating a shop on the main Vraxian commercial station. She had been there for 12 years, selling advanced sensor systems. The Vraxians had grown to depend on her products. When she announced she was closing her business, the station administrator confronted her. "You cannot simply leave," the Vraxian said. "We have agreements." Yunji checked her records on a datapad. "All agreements have been fulfilled. All current contracts are complete. I am free to relocate my business. Where will you go?" "Home," Yunji said simply. "We have decided to focus on internal markets for a while." "This is because of the council vote," the administrator accused. Yunji looked up from her packing. "The council made it very clear that we are not equals. We are reconsidering all of our business relationships in light of that information." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human businesses closed. Human workers on alien worlds packed their belongings and booked passage home. Human contractors declined to renew their agreements. Everything was legal. Everything was within the bounds of existing contracts. But the effect was devastating. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions. Representatives from dependent species demanded action. The Council could not comprehend what was happening. How could humanity survive without galactic trade? How could they be so foolish? After 3 weeks of silence, the Council organized a diplomatic mission. 50 species sent their most skilled ambassadors. The fleet of diplomatic ships traveled to Sol System, arriving at Earth's doorstep with demands for an explanation. Earth's planetary defense network tracked every ship from the moment they entered the system. The tracking was precise, almost aggressive in its perfection. But no weapons fired. No warnings were issued. The defense platforms simply watched. The diplomatic fleet requested permission to land on Earth. They waited for 12 hours before receiving a response. It was a simple text transmission from someone identified only as Hyan in Earth's Coordination Authority. Permission denied. Return to Council space immediately. The fleet commander, a veteran Thalori diplomat, was shocked. This was unprecedented. Refusing to meet with diplomatic missions violated thousands of years of galactic custom. He sent urgent messages explaining the importance of dialogue. He appealed to Earth's own diplomatic traditions. He received no response. For 3 days, the 50-ship delegation orbited Earth. They tried every communication channel. They sent formal requests. They sent informal appeals. They even tried contacting individual human government officials, whose names they had on record. Nothing worked. On the 4th day, a video transmission came from Earth's surface. It was not broadcast to the ships. It was broadcast to the entire galaxy on every public channel. An older man appeared on screen. He wore a simple black suit and sat at a plain desk. Behind him, through a window, Earth's blue oceans and white clouds were visible. He introduced himself as Director Taiyang of Earth's Coordinating Authority. "You came to our home after mocking us in yours," Taiyang said. His voice was calm but firm. "For 70 years, we followed your rules. We asked politely for fairness. You laughed at us. You called us useful servants who needed to be controlled. Now you come here demanding explanations for our behavior. You demand we justify ourselves to you." He leaned forward slightly. "We owe you nothing. No explanations. No justifications. No more patience. You made your decision about humanity. We have made ours about you." Taiyang stood up. "You have 72 hours to leave our star system. After that, we will consider your presence an act of hostility." This transmission is concluded. The screen went black. The diplomatic fleet left within 24 hours. 60 days after humanity withdrew from the Council, reports began flooding in from the edges of human-controlled space. Ships were moving. Hundreds of them. Massive colony vessels, supply transports, construction platforms, all streaming out from hidden locations near human worlds. They were not heading toward Council space. They were heading away from it, toward unexplored regions and unclaimed systems. The Calyx Hive was monitoring the movements with their usual attention to detail. Their analysis showed something disturbing. These were not the slow, careful colony missions that species usually launched. These ships were moving fast. Very fast. According to the 70-year-old treaties, human faster-than-light technology was supposed to be limited. The Council had reviewed and approved Earth FTL drive designs personally. Human ships should not be capable of the speeds being observed. Yet here they were, colony ships moving at velocities that matched Council military vessels. Some were moving even faster. The Council convened another emergency session. A motion passed to send observation probes to these new human colonies. The Calyx volunteered their sophisticated probe swarms. 20,000 microscopic observation devices were dispatched to 5 different systems where humans had just established settlements. Every single probe vanished. No debris fields. No energy signatures. No warning signals. They simply stopped existing the moment they entered the human-controlled systems. The Council's Strategic Command began a comprehensive review of human military capability. The work took weeks because humanity had been so quiet for so long. What the analysts discovered made many of them wish they had voted differently in that Council session 2 months ago. For 70 years, humanity had agreed to limit their military forces to system defense only. The treaty language was very specific. Humans could build weapons and ships for defending their home systems, but nothing that could project power beyond their own territory. Everyone had assumed this meant Earth had a small, weak military barely capable of protecting their own worlds. They had not asked what defending an entire star system actually required. Commander Soman of the Earth Defense Fleet gave an interview to an independent galactic news network. She appeared relaxed and friendly, sitting in what looked like a comfortable office. She answered questions about Earth's military posture with surprising openness. "We took the treaties very seriously," she explained. "System defense was our mandate. So we asked ourselves what that really meant. How do you defend an entire star system from any possible threat?" She smiled at the camera. "The answer is you need weapons that can protect every planet, every station, every ship in that system simultaneously. You need sensors that can detect threats from any direction. You need response systems that can engage hostile forces before they can harm civilians." The interviewer asked about specific weapon systems. Summon's smile widened. "We developed several interesting solutions. For example, our orbital defense satellites use localized spatial manipulation fields. Essentially, we learned how to make gravity do what we want in a very small area. It is quite effective for system defense." The interview made many council members nervous. But words were just words. They needed to see actual capabilities. They got their demonstration in the Kepler sector. A new human colony had been established on a world the Council had marked as reserved for future allocation. The Council's enforcement fleet was dispatched to remove the illegal colonists. 200 warships, primarily Vraxian vessels with support from several allied species. The fleet was commanded by War Master Dekran, a Vraxian with 300 years of military experience. He had fought in 6 major conflicts and suppressed a dozen colonial rebellions. He considered this mission beneath his talents, but approached it professionally. His ships arrived in the Kepler system and immediately detected the human colony on the 4th planet. Approximately 5,000 colonists. Minimal infrastructure. A few dozen orbital satellites that appeared to be communication and weather monitoring systems. Dekran broadcast his demands. "Illegal human colonists, you are ordered to evacuate this world within 24 hours. Failure to comply will result in forced removal." The response came from someone identified as Defense Coordinator Ji-hoon. His voice was young, almost cheerful. "War Master Dekran, you have entered sovereign human territory without authorization. You are ordered to withdraw immediately." Dekran actually laughed. The human thought 5,000 colonists could face down 200 warships. It was adorable in its stupidity. "You have no authority here," Dekran replied. "Comply or face the consequences." "Final warning," Ji-hoon said. "Withdraw now." Dekran cut the transmission and ordered his fleet to advance. They would demonstrate what happened when primitives challenged their superiors. 40 seconds later, his fleet ceased to exist. The humans did not send ships to fight them. No missiles were launched. No energy weapons fired. The small satellites orbiting the colony simply activated. Each satellite, devices no larger than a shuttlecraft, generated what observers later described as localized spatial collapse fields. The technical explanation would take years to fully understand. The practical effect was immediate. Space around each Vraxian ship compressed. Not gradually, instantly. The warships, some of them massive vessels kilometers in length, were crushed down to the size of small asteroids. The matter was compressed so thoroughly that it reached neutron degenerate density. 200 ships, 47,000 crew members, all converted to ultra-dense matter in less than a minute. The human colony's satellites powered down and resumed their normal operations. Every major species in the galaxy had sensors watching that encounter. The footage spread through the networks within hours. Scientists tried to explain what they had witnessed. Most admitted they had no idea how humans had weaponized fundamental physics. Military commanders watched the recordings and felt cold fear. If that was what humanity considered system defense, what other capabilities were they hiding? The Galactic Council demanded an emergency summit. This was beyond treaties and politics now. This was an existential question. What had humanity become during those 70 years of restrictions? And what were they planning to do next? The emergency summit of the Galactic Council lasted 3 hours and accomplished nothing. Species shouted at each other, blamed each other, and proposed increasingly extreme responses to what they were now calling the human problem. Some wanted immediate military action. Others urged caution and negotiation. A few suggested admitting they had made a mistake and offering humanity better terms. Those few were ignored. Finally, the Council issued an official ultimatum. It was broadcast on every channel and transmitted directly to every human world. Humanity had 30 days to submit to immediate inspection of all military facilities. They would surrender all weapons technology that violated the spirit of the original treaties. They would accept permanent council oversight of their government and military. They would return to their assigned role in galactic civilization. If they refused, the Council would consider Earth and all human colonies to be rogue states and take appropriate action. The response came less than 1 hour later. Every screen across the galaxy activated simultaneously. The transmission overrode local controls. It could not be blocked or ignored. Trillions of beings across thousands of worlds found themselves watching the same broadcast. Ambassador Jiwan appeared on screen. She stood in what looked like a simple office. Behind her, a window showed Earth's surface. She wore the same gray suit she had worn to that council session 2 months ago. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began, "I speak to you not as a supplicant begging for mercy, but as the representative of a free and sovereign humanity." Her expression was calm, but her words carried anger underneath. 70 years. We accepted restrictions placed on us by this council. We accepted because we believed in the promise of civilization. We thought that if we proved ourselves peaceful, productive, and trustworthy, you would eventually accept us as equals. She paused. We were wrong. When we asked to be treated fairly, you laughed. When we requested the same opportunities given to other species, you called us useful servants who needed to be controlled. Behind G1, holographic displays activated. They showed technical data, weapon specifications, industrial capacity reports. The numbers were staggering. While living under your restrictions, we did not waste time, G1 continued. Every limitation you placed on us became a problem to solve. You restricted our faster-than-light speeds, so we invented drives that manipulate space itself rather than moving through it. You limited our weapons, so we learned to turn physics into a weapon. You capped our artificial intelligence development, so we created neural interface systems that make every human soldier think with the processing power of a supercomputer. The displays showed more. Fleet compositions, industrial output, research programs, military doctrines developed in secret over decades. You thought you were containing us, G1 said. Instead, you gave us 70 years to prepare for the day we would no longer accept your chains. She stepped closer to the camera. Your ultimatum is rejected. Your treaties are void. Your council no longer has any authority over humanity or human space. We are not rogue states. We are simply free. The transmission could have ended there. But G1 had more to say. To the species who voted against us, who mocked us, who called us servants, understand this. We do not seek revenge. We seek only to ensure that you can never do to us what you have already done. We will defend ourselves with whatever force is necessary. Test us if you dare. Then her expression softened slightly. To those species who abstained, who remained silent when they should have spoken, we offer a choice. The old order is ending. You can cling to the council that failed you, or you can join us in building something better. Something based on mutual respect rather than enforced hierarchy. The holographic displays changed to show the framework of a new treaty system. G1 explained it clearly. Equal representation. No tribute. No restrictions based on species, age, or origin. free trade without punitive tariffs, mutual defense against aggression. We call it the Compact of Equals, she said. It is open to any species willing to treat others with dignity. The choice is yours. The transmission ended. Within 6 hours, 17 species had formally applied to join the Compact. Within 3 days, the number reached 140. These were mostly younger species, smaller civilizations that had themselves felt the weight of council condescension, but many of the older, more powerful species refused. The Vraxian conclave issued a statement denouncing humanity's arrogance. The Corvaxi Dominion, a militaristic empire spanning 40 systems, declared humans to be a threat requiring elimination. 212 species remained loyal to the old council. They formed a defensive pact and began mobilizing military forces. The Corvaxi, eager to prove themselves, volunteered to strike first. They would teach humanity the consequences of defying their betters. They assembled a strike force of 150,000 soldiers, their finest shock troops, veterans of countless campaigns. The target was 3 newly established human colonies in disputed territory. Small populations, light defenses. The Corvaxi would crush them quickly and break humanity's will to resist. The Corvaxi fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the first system. Orbital scans showed a colony of only 3,000 humans on the main planet. Perfect. The troop carriers descended. Corvaxi soldiers deployed in textbook formation, expecting brief resistance from whatever militia the colonists could gather. They were met by Colonial Defense Commander Deho and 1,200 colonists backed by a single battalion of Earth Defense Forces. 300 actual soldiers. The Corvaxi had faced worse odds before. Their commanders were confident that the battle lasted 6 hours. It took that long for the Corvaxi to realize they were not fighting humans in any conventional sense. They were fighting an enemy that knew their tactics before they employed them. An enemy that adapted to every strategy in real time. An enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. Simultaneously. The neural interface systems G1 had mentioned were not exaggeration. Every human defender was linked to every other through quantum encrypted networks. They shared sensory data, tactical analysis, and command decisions at the speed of thought. When one human saw an enemy, all humans knew. When one identified a weakness, all exploited it. The Corvaxi fought bravely. They were professionals. But they were fighting an opponent that thought as one organism while moving as hundreds of independent units. After 8 hours, the Corvaxi commanders ordered retreat. Of 150,000 soldiers deployed across 3 colonies, only 93 made it back to the ships. Human casualties across all 3 battles. 11 wounded. 0 dead. The footage of Corvaxi soldiers fleeing from vastly smaller human forces spread across the galaxy. The old council watched and felt their certainty crumble. Perhaps humanity had not been bluffing after all. The council fracture accelerated after the Corvaxi defeat. Every day brought more defections. Species that had been loyal to the old order for thousands of years suddenly discovered reasons to reconsider their positions. The Thalari High Command officially apologized to humanity for their silence during the vote. They were among the first major powers to petition for membership in the Compact of Equals. Their application was accepted within hours. The economic pressure was intense. Human goods and services remained available only to Compact members. Species still loyal to the old council found themselves facing shortages of critical technologies. Their economies began to suffer. Director Tai Yang addressed the galaxy again 3 months after G1's broadcast. His message was simple and direct. "The door remains open," he said. "Any species willing to treat others with respect is welcome in the Compact. We do not require apologies. We do not demand tribute or submission. We ask only that you recognize the basic principle that all civilizations deserve equal standing. He paused. But understand this clearly. The days of humanity accepting inferior status are over. We will never return to the old system. Choose accordingly. 300 species had joined the compact by that point. Their combined economic and military power now exceeded what remained of the old council. But the holdouts remained defiant. The Vraxian conclave and their closest allies refused to bend. They saw accepting the compact as admitting they had been wrong. That was unthinkable for species that had dominated galactic politics for millennia. The Vraxian leadership made a decision. They would assemble a military force so overwhelming that even humanity would have to acknowledge reality. They formed an alliance with the Korvaxi, the Granite Collective, and 40 other species. Together, they would create an armada that could crush Earth and end this rebellion against the natural order. They called it the Purification Armada. 8,000 warships. The largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. It would take time to organize, but once ready, it would be unstoppable. Humanity watched the preparations through their intelligence networks and said nothing publicly. Privately, Earth's military command made their own preparations. 6 months after the council vote, the Purification Armada was ready. 8,000 ships from 42 different species, all united in their determination to end the human threat. They plotted their course to Sol System. The Armada commander was a Vraxian named Highkeeper Zalna, chosen for her strategic brilliance and utterly certainty in Vraxian superiority. She broadcast a message to Earth before the fleet departed. Humanity's arrogance ends now, she declared. Surrender immediately, and we may show mercy. Resist and face extermination. You have 24 hours to respond. Earth's response came from Admiral Subin, commander of the Solar Defense Fleet. Her message was brief. Come and try. The Purification Armada arrived in Sol System expecting a massive defensive fleet, huge orbital fortresses, and desperate resistance. What they found was Admiral Subin waiting with just 47 ships. The vessels were unlike anything in the Council databases. They looked more like geometric sculptures than warships. Perfect spheres connected by curved surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. Highkeeper Zalma was insulted. Did humanity think 47 ships could face 8,000? This was beyond arrogance. This was madness. She broadcast one final demand for surrender. Admiral Subin appeared on screen, looking calm and almost sad. You came to our home to purify us, she said quietly. You came to commit genocide because we demanded to be treated as equals. So let me teach you something that the Council should have learned 70 years ago. The 47 human ships moved into a spherical formation around the Armada. They did not activate weapons. They did not launch missiles. They simply engaged their drives. Space around the entire Purification Armada began to change. Sensors detected impossible readings. Time itself was being manipulated. Inside the sphere of altered space-time, millions of years began to pass in seconds. From the perspective of the Armada's crews, they had time to scream once before they aged to dust. Ships corroded in moments. Metal fatigued and failed. Power systems decayed. Electronics degraded beyond function. From outside the sphere, observers watched the entire 8,000 ship armada crumble into atomic debris in less than 1 minute. The human ships powered down their temporal distortion fields and resumed standard positions around Earth. Admiral Subin broadcast once more to the galaxy. Let this be the final lesson. Humanity does not wish to rule you. We do not seek to dominate, but we will never again accept subjugation. Anyone who comes to our home with violence will face the consequences. The message ended. The remaining council members who had supported the Purification Armada faced immediate rebellion from their own populations. Citizens across dozens of worlds demanded their leaders withdraw from the old council and petition to join the compact. Most did so within days. The Vraxian conclave held out for another month before internal political collapse forced them to accept reality. They applied to join the compact. Their application was accepted without hesitation or humiliation. Within 1 year of that council vote, the old Galactic Council had been completely reformed. The Compact of Equals became the new foundation of galactic civilization. Humanity held a permanent seat, not as masters, but as one voice among equals. Trade flowed freely again. Human merchants returned to their businesses. Human goods became available to all species, willing to treat their providers with respect. The galaxy was more prosperous than it had been in centuries. Ambassador Jiwan, now Secretary General of the Compact, gave one final address to mark the first anniversary of humanity's withdrawal from the old council. 1 year ago, you mocked us when we asked for fairness, she said. You laughed when we showed dignity. You attacked when we demanded equality. Today, you live in a galaxy where the species you thought you could suppress forever are the ones ensuring your freedom to choose your own path. She looked directly into the camera. Remember this always. Humanity does not seek to rule you. We never did. We sought only to ensure that no species can ever do to another what you tried to do to us. That is our promise and our purpose. Behind her, Earth's sun rose over the horizon, its light shining on a world that was no longer suppressed, no longer contained, no longer forced to beg for basic respect. The treaties were over. The mockery had ended, and a new age of genuine equality had finally begun.